One of the biggest pitfalls of note buying occurs within the first 3 minutes of your conversation with the note seller. Even experienced note buyers make this mistake. This short video will keep you from making it too. Hi, I'm Donna Bauer, the original note buyer, and today I want to share with you how to respond to what will probably wind up being the most asked question that you get when it comes to buying and selling notes, and that is, how much of a discount do you take? Before we get started, though, I want to mention if you haven't visited my website, you might want to check it out at thenotebuyer.com. We've got lots of cool things going on there. And be sure that you join my list if you have not already. And that way you'll get notices of upcoming events and any future blog posts. Okay, so what are you going to say when, let's say you've sent out your direct mail letters and you get a call from a potential note seller. And this note seller, right off the bat, says, hey, I know you're going to sell this or buy this at a discount. How much of a discount do you take? And they'll say, look, they owe about $95,000. They pay like clockwork, $500 a month. The note is really well secured. I mean, this is a Class A note. Like, what's your typical discount? Well, what they don't realize is that's like asking me, how much will you give me for my vintage 1970 Volkswagen bus? It's an 8-passenger model. It's got a manual transmission. It's two-tone gold and white. It's got very low miles. It's very nostalgic. Well, that depends. Does it look like this? Or does it look like this? Big difference, huh? And the same is true of notes, but people don't realize it. You know, I cringe when someone asks me, how much of a discount do you take? Because it really puts me in a no-win situation. If I tell them that I'll pay as much as 95 cents on the dollar, but then when I do my due diligence, I find out, hey, there's no way I'm going to pay 95 cents on the dollar for this. I can only give them 90 cents on the dollar. Then I've boxed myself right out of a deal. Because since I threw out that number, 95 cents on the dollar, they are going to expect to get 95 cents on the dollar. And anything less than that is not going to fly. On the other hand, I could give myself plenty of leeway and suggest that I might pay only 85 cents on the dollar. Under promise and over deliver. Well, in this case, that's not going to fly because what will happen is my offer won't be competitive and they probably won't even submit it to me to begin with. I really do evaluate each note individually on its own merits to arrive at a quote. And the fact is that the more I know about a note, usually the more that I can offer to the note seller. I'm going to look at what type of collateral it is, what is the note like, and what's the payor like. And once I have all of that information, then I can give a really good quote. For example, the first thing I want to know is what type of property is securing this note. Is it a single family, a multifamily? Is it commercial? Is it a rental property? Why do I need to know this? Because I have a cardinal rule that says that I'm not going to buy any note unless it is secured by a property that I would want to own. And if I'm in Ohio and this note is secured by a strip mall in California, that's probably not a note that I want to buy to hold. Now, on the other hand, I might buy it and resell it to somebody in California if it's a good note. So I need to know what type of property it is. I want to know where it's located. Is it in an appreciating area or is it in a war zone, you know? And I need to know what condition is it in. If I am not a rehabber, I sure don't want to buy a house that has been completely stripped down to nothing and is in the middle of a rehab. Because if I got that back, I sure wouldn't want to deal with it. So I need to know the condition of the property, and most importantly, I need to know how much equity is in the property. The more equity, the safer the deal. So I want to look at how much of a down payment was made. Because if somebody puts down a 10% down payment, then that indicates a very serious buyer and it creates immediate equity. Okay. So the thing that I look at is what is the loan to value? And that loan to value can come from the down payment, or it might be seasoned. That means how many payments have they made. If it's seasoned well enough, there could be a sizable amount of principal pay down on the loan. So after I find out what I can about the collateral, then I look at the note itself. I want to know what are the terms of the note. If I'm interested in a long-term investment and it's only got 3 years left on it, that might not be a note that I want to look at. If it's got an 18% rate of return, that's going to be a major red flag to me. Why in the world would they be paying 18% unless they're extremely high risk? I want to look at it and see if there's a balloon. Why would that make a difference to me? Well, I would want to know if the payor is able to refinance that balloon. It's a great thing to have a balloon on a note. You get your money back quicker, but what if they can't pay it? The last thing I want to do is buy a note and I'm expecting a balloon in 3 years and it winds up they can't refinance and I wind up with a 10-year investment. That would not be a good deal for me. And I also want to take a look at the note itself. Is it well written? Boy, you wouldn't believe some of the crazy documentation that I have seen over the years. And the way a note is written can determine whether it is a valid note or not, whether I can actually collect on that note. So after I look at the collateral in the note, then I want to check out the payer. What is their pay history? Do they have automatic payments that are withdrawn from their account every month? Do they really pay like clockwork? And how well is the note seasoned? I mentioned that before. In other words, how long have they been making payments? If somebody's been making payments for 2 or 3 years like clockwork, that's a pretty good indication that they're going to keep making payments unless there's some totally unforeseen emergency or change in their situation. I also want to look at their credit. Now, understand that with most seller carryback notes, usually there's some kind of a credit glitch. After all, if they had super good credit, they probably would have just gone to the bank instead of asking for a seller finance deal. But so bad credit is not necessarily a deal killer. But what I'm looking for is, have they had 3 foreclosures and a bankruptcy and they've got 10 collections and all of that kind of stuff? What really is going on in their life? And I also want to know, what has it been like recently? They might have gone through a bad time, but hey, for the last 12 months, all of their accounts have been kept current. And that would make a big difference to me. And I want to know what the likelihood is of an early payoff. Why? Because those are the notes that I keep for myself. I love getting a note that I buy at a discount and then it pays off early. So I'm going to be looking for that whenever I give a quote. So once I've checked out the collateral, the note, and the payer, now I'm prepared to give the absolute best quote that I can give to the note seller. And by doing that, it dramatically increases the likelihood of me closing that deal, primarily because I haven't fallen into the trap of answering that question, how much of a discount do you usually take? So what should you say when somebody asks, how much of a discount do you usually take? A good response would be, it depends. There is no usual discount. I actually evaluate each note individually on its own merits. If you'll give me about 10 minutes to get some details from you, I'll get back to you with an exact quote of what I'll pay. But they might come back at you then and say, well, can you at least give me a range of what to expect? And your reply then could be, my range is across the board. I might not buy the note at all, or on a very rare occasion, I might not even take a discount. Sometimes you'll get a similar question from your investors. What rate of return can I get when I buy a note from you? Well, it depends. Are you buying this kind of a note or this kind? You know what I mean? So when someone asks you, how much of a discount do you usually take? Just think of the old Volkswagen bus, and you'll always reply, it depends. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you will always remember the old Volkswagen bus. Don't fall into that trap of answering the question, how much of a discount do you usually take? This is Donna Bauer, the original note buyer. Thanks for joining me. If you haven't already, be sure to visit my website at thenotebuyer.com. Happy investing!